Dr. Oz, we heard from the president at the end of last week, and he was talking about these hopeful results, trial results, of how a French doctor charted about 3 dozen different patients. They all had coronavirus. And rather than the standard course has been going, as we look at this graph, look at the red line, at day one, day zero essentially, everybody had 100% of the virus. And then by day 6, everybody in the study had 0 virus. Tell us about this possible drug combination and how hopeful you are about it.
Well, I read the study, I was stunned, literally a jaw dropped. I didn't know it was possible, and I started immediately trying to get in touch with this physician. He's a very well-respected French doctor. I finally got him to talk to me, believe it or not, because his wife watches the show. And he started to explain to me why he'd done the study and what it had showed. And I did the interview yesterday, we're going to air it today on my show. I was flabbergasted. He took concepts that the Chinese have been working with, and some anecdotal ideas, and then constructed this trial. Now, in his mind, this data is so powerful that he does not believe a randomized trial is worth it. And in France, some cities are moving forward without clinical trials. However, as a physician and in America, we feel strongly about randomized trials. So I spent the weekend working with the team at Columbia. We've crafted a study that would replicate what he did, but a true randomized trial where neither side knows what they got. And we're going to test with these 2 drugs, a malaria drug plus Z-Pak basically, can reduce the chance of you having a virus that lasts in your body more than 5 days, as we're showing in the study, and also will it reduce the amount of virus the whole time. This doctor told me something else that was very important that he hasn't published yet. He said that the clinical outcomes were trending towards improvement. He's a very precise man. He did not want to release data until he had more. So in 10 days, we'll get that information as well. But this is a game changer. Because if you can take a combination of 2 already existing pills, repurpose them to use for the American public to shorten the amount of time you're infectious and hopefully reduce complications, this becomes more like the flu than coronavirus. So at Columbia, again, brave folks, I'm funding the trial. We have staff that is manpowering it. These wonderful physicians already got approval for 1 study on Friday. I think, together with other academic centers, I spoke to the Cleveland Clinic yesterday, major centers are going to be doing this. American academia will move forward. We have one big challenge, everybody. The U.S. government has to procure enough of these pills. My biggest challenge was getting pills. And we finally, thankfully, got a couple, enough to do a trial, and a couple hundred people. But America is going to want pills. Because I think starting today, a lot of Americans, no matter what anyone says, are going to start taking these pills if they've got tested positive. I don't want people hoarding. Please do not take these pills and put them in your medicine cabinet and store them just in case. Desperately ill people need them. So if we're going to start using it, and it's already happening, let's start making this snowball grow.
So Dr. Oz, for the laymen that are sharing the screen with you right now, who didn't go to medical school or have a friend at Columbia, we see this and we see hope. You're a doctor, you see this and you see success. Dr. Fauci sees this and says, I need more study. If the drug is out there and not hurting people now, does that eliminate the downside that usually comes with taking experimental drugs? Why do so many doctors like you feel optimistic? And Dr. Fauci goes out of his way to tamp down any expectations. What's going on here?
Dr. Fauci is a very well-respected clinician. He's a friend of mine. I like him. I think he's doing a great job. I also want to emphasize, like most American academic doctors, I'm in that group. We want data that's truly randomized. In France, they gave the pills to people who wanted it. They didn't give it to people who didn't want it. There's an inherent bias there. However, the data is so strong, I completely understand why America wants to start taking these pills. And I think that's actually, and that France agreed, it makes sense. It's going to happen anyway. But we need more data. So let's do both. Well, you don't have to be right and wrong in this. You can actually start the clinical trials. We'll get the data back over the next week or 2, 3, whatever it takes. But meanwhile, people can start treating. If the data comes back as positive as they found in France, then we're fine. Just keep going. If the data turns out to be the opposite, doesn't work, why expose people to these pills? And you do need a prescription. These pills can have complications. They've been used for many years. We believe they're generally safe, but you've got to check. Because there's some things that could hurt you if you don't avoid taking these pills with those complications.
Dr. Oz, I was talking to some physicians recently, and they said within like the New York area, you can't even get those pills. Who's making those pills? Will we have enough? And how powerful are these pills? What are the side effects?
Well, I'm going to post the protocol that was used in France on my website and all my social media so people can see what they actually did. And he kindly shared them with me. The main side effects are they can cause irregular heartbeats that can be dangerous. And there's some eye problems that can sometimes happen. Usually these are associated, the latter problem, with longer term use. We're talking about 10 days of taking the pills when you're not feeling well. I would not take it preventively yet. Those trials are also being started at Columbia and elsewhere. And these trials will show us whether it makes sense to give it to doctors and nurses. But you, Ainsley, hit the nail on the head. We don't have enough of these pills. So I spoke to the task force at every level of government to try to ensure that people appreciate the challenge. We just don't have pills. I did a rough calculation. I think we have pills for between 5 and 10 million people right now. I know that the task force is going to release information about procuring extra pills. I know all the companies are gearing up as quickly as they can. This is like a wartime mobilization, laser focused on making these pills. So while academic medicine proves for everyone's satisfaction that we truly have something that works, we need to begin to make enough of the pills so people can get served if we do prove that it works. And then critically ill people right now can start getting the pills as long as the average American patriotically doesn't hoard these pills. Like we're saying, don't hoard masks, don't hoard these pills.